What's going on? Welcome to Dharma Time here on WPSN99.com. As always, I'm your host, the Dharma Guy, here with the Dope Doctor. What's up, man?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
I am slowly getting back into the swing of things.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. For those of you who watch us on a continuous basis, two things you'll note. Number one, this is the first show in like a month.
Yeah.
And number two, we're on an hour earlier at the moment. Rest assured, that is not going to be the new norm. However, I have to go to a doctor's appointment with wifey today, and it's kind of an important one, so we moved the timeline just for today. And as far as the month gone, man, we had some vacations.
Man, I knew it had been a long time when the microphone was still where the lemon squeeze puts the microphone.
Yeah.
So when the microphone was still over there, I was like, wow, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. Gosh, dude. I don't know. So for those of you who once again watch the show or follow us on social media at the Dharma Guy and at the Dope Doctor, we took vacations. You were in California, and I went to Bradenton Beach.
Yeah, went to Vegas too.
Excuse me.
Yeah, you got to add that in there, man.
My bad.
Yeah.
Yes. No, yours was definitely much more.
I just followed my Amex around.
Yeah.
That's how I know where I've been.
I had a great vacation though. I got to see a sea turtle laying eggs, which was awesome.
Yeah, that is pretty epic. I like that.
It was. It was epic.
Pretty cool.
It was a very spiritual moment, I think.
Yeah.
Watching I guess for me the coolest part was the idea that for potentially hundreds of years,
yeah,
that little migration's been
Right.
taking place.
Right.
And with all the stuff that's happening in the world and all these other, civilization type things that are taking place around it,
Yeah.
that's still happening. And it was kind of cool to be a part of that. Like, and the way it happened was amazing, by the way.
Now you saw her like abandon her children.
Yes.
Is what you saw.
Yes, and my wife was like, "That's great parenting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just leave my kids and leave."
Yeah. You didn't see the hatchlings because that you can kind of predict.
Yes,
But you can't predict when they're going to come up and abandon their kids.
You have no clue.
Just like in human life, they just kind of do that in the
Yeah.
middle of the night and nobody sees them.
Well, for us, it was like it was interesting the way it played out, and I'll do this short because I want to get to our show today. But
Right.
I think the coolest part for us was we tried to go find a place to eat, and it was like 9 something at night. And what I didn't know was like that entire island shuts down at like 9, 10 o'clock.
They all do.
It was crazy to me. Like everything was closed, and I was like, "What the hell's going on here?" And we found one place that was supposedly open.
Yeah.
Drove all the way up the island 7 miles to get there to realize they were closed for a private party. So I had to turn all the way back, come all the way back down. And so it was just interesting that all these little obstacles came up, but without those obstacles, we would never have seen the turtle because when we got to the beach, we walked down looking for shells and stuff like that at night. And on the way back, we saw the tracks that weren't there when we first went. So we literally, we would have missed it had any of those other, eateries been open at that time.
You guys were looking for a spot to make a memory. Tell the truth.
Yeah, right.
Dana kept me out till sunrise. Her whole goal was like, we can't go home until it's sunrise.
That's funny.
In Vegas.
But yeah, so it was really cool for me. Anyways, it was a nice little weekend trip. It was
Right
good to be back though.
It's awesome.
And hopefully this is the start of me getting back on the ball, man.
It's good to take time off, but I think more for, at least in my case, taking time off is more for them, the family,
right,
to experience memories with me rather than me really taking time off. Because, I mean, when you have all the responsibility and you're kind of managing all the movement and the time and paying for everything, I can do without.
Sure.
A real vacation probably for me, if you really had to define what a vacation is,
sit at home doing nothing.
Let me sit all by myself somewhere, nobody, just catering to my every need. Something,
exactly.
You know what I mean?
But even that you'd have to pay for. Oh man. Anyways,
yes,
so let's get some sponsorships out of the way so we can kind of get started.
All right.
First, I'll start with the known ones that we do every week, and that is we have Journey Pure and Retreat Behavior Health, both of which are fantastic facilities that we refer to a lot.
Not this place.
And then you got Orange County Drug Free. Not yet.
Not yet.
We have Orange County Drug Free Coalition. They've been a huge supporter of the network for many, many years.
Yeah.
And then we have the Now Matters More Foundation, of which, of course, he's the founder. I'm the president. You can check out more about what we do or donate at nowmattersmore.org, or you can call at 833-NOW-MATTERS if you are having issues and you want help.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, we have Sport Subaru South on OBT. That's a local Subaru dealership who is doing something really cool. They're having an event called Share the Love.
Share the Love.
And that's from November 15th of this year to December 31st. And that during that event, any Subaru that they sell there, or I'm assuming any car, so I think they have used cars as well.
Yeah. I think so.
When they sell a car, they're going to donate $250 per car.
Yeah.
And Subaru as a whole is going to match that $250.
Yeah.
So $500 per car for any car sold from November 15th to December 31st.
Yeah, go to the store. We're going to have a display there at the store is what it looks like.
Yeah, very, very cool. Very excited about that. And very happy to have them on board. They're a good sponsor. So.
Yeah, man.
All right, so let's get started, man.
And a side note on the Now Matters More, if you play PlayStation and you play race car games, NASCAR Heat 3, you'll see Now Matters More on the side of Corbin Forrester's number 7 truck in the truck series. So if you play video games.
On the Heat 4.
That's NASCAR Heat 4. I don't
see.
Until I see it, I don't believe it.
Well, we'll see.
But right now, NASCAR Heat 3, you'll see Now Matters More on Corbin Forrester's number 7 truck.
All right, so let's get started, man, because I know this is a topic you and I are both pretty passionate about.
What topic that we talk about are we not passionate about? Because even when we do the sports show, we're passionate about.
Touche. Which we haven't done.
By the way, congratulations to the women.
Yay, World Cup. That's the second one in a row, right?
Yeah, second one in the world, but 4th total.
But all right, so today's topic. There's a lot of stuff happening in the news these days. Some of which is political, some isn't. But
most is.
Most is. The things that really kind of stuck to me, at least in the last couple of days, that prompted the show was the whole Little Mermaid thing, the Ariel situation.
Oh, Little Mermaid.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, if you've been living under a rock or you just haven't been paying attention, essentially what happened was they're doing a live-action film of the Little Mermaid, and they decided to give the part of Ariel, the main character, I guess, to Halle Bailey, which is an African-American actress, a black actress.
That sounds close to Halle Berry.
It does. Gave it to her. And apparently some people, I don't know who. I mean, it could be a very small segment of the population, but they're just very loud. I don't know. What happened?
Because I'm under the rock.
There are some people who are in disagreement that they gave what we know from the Disney movies is a traditionally white character to
that little redhead?
To a black girl. I don't know how.
Oh, the redheaded Ariel.
Yes,
the redheaded. All that image that we see everywhere.
Yes, is now going to be a little redheaded black girl.
No, she's not gonna have red hair.
Yeah,
is she?
Yeah,
she gonna have red hair.
I think so.
So the problem wasn't the red hair.
No, the problem was the.
See, I would have changed the red hair.
Who knows?
Red hair kind of scares me a little bit. I gotta admit, them redheads out there that I've been with in the past know why I'm scared of you.
But once again, though, I just want to say that I don't know how controversial this really is, to be honest with you, because the thing I've noticed is there's a very small select group that is very, very loud, and they get a lot of attention. And so when I see on news media or on Twitter things of that nature, you'll have a couple people who are shouting certain things, and then when the media picks it up, it's like, oh, everybody's feeling this way. And it's like, well, not everybody is feeling this way. There's a very small group. Either way, that's what I've seen a lot of lately. And so I figured today we would our show topic is overcorrected. And so I think and so for me anyways, what I've been saying for a couple of years now is the pendulum is swinging, right? So the pendulum used to be way over here.
Was it really way over there though?
I think it was. I don't know the date.
Wait, in Reaganomics maybe?
No, but I'm just saying that there was a time where it was acceptable in certain circles to beat your wife and kids.
The good old days.
Yeah.
I miss those. I miss those completely. My grandfather's laughing at me right now.
And there was also days where it was acceptable to belittle and put down and even and lynch black folks. There's certain things that were just the pendulum was way too far in that direction in certain topics, right?
Okay, I see where you're going. Yeah. I see
and then the pendulum kind of was swinging more towards the other side, and somewhere in the middle is I think where it should be. But it feels to a lot of people that lately the pendulum has swung too far, and now we've overcorrected. And the example that you and I both kind of settled on when we were coming up with the name of the show was overcorrected in the sense of. Right. If you're driving down the car, you're down the freeway and you're in I don't know why I did that. Who drives like this? But
you do. Hey, I'm driving.
No, driving.
Truck driver. You're a truck driver.
Yeah, right. But anyway, so if you're driving down the street and there's like a pothole in the middle of the road,
right?
you have to correct for that. You see a pothole in the road, you can't just go through it because you could potentially
there's a problem,
damage your car. Whatever.
You need a solution.
Yes,
right.
And so typically the best solution to that is to slightly adjust your way.
Slightly adjust,
mm-hmm. And you adapt. One might say
adapt. I like it.
And you go around it. You know, and problem solved. You continue on with your way. No big deal.
That's it. Keep going. Keep it moving.
But another way,
or go through it and just deal with it.
That too. Or the other way would be to completely swerve way too hard to the right, overcorrect, and go veering off the side of the road and completely,
no bueno,
like Dukes of Hazzard style.
Yeah, I lost some family members for that overcorrectness.
Yeah. And so and it feels to me in certain instances, it feels like that's kind of where we're going right now, and I don't like it. I'm gonna be honest. I don't like it.
Yeah. We're definitely overcorrecting.
Yeah.
A lot.
And so I think it's fair to say that I don't want to act like I'm putting my head in the sand. I'm not an ostrich here. Like
right.
I definitely believe that there's issues in our world that needed to be addressed. Right. So let's first put that out there, right? Like, go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is, just to set the premise right, just so that nobody gets confused of where we're going. We're not saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We're saying it may be broke, but don't overfix it. Mm-hmm. Like don't over correct the situation. That's why you gave the analogy of the driving, because we're not saying the system doesn't have its breakages.
Yeah, I mean,
it's brokenness.
I think that
right?
There's some very real problems out there that I think need to be addressed.
And you're using the aerial thing as an example.
Yes, we got plenty of those. Okay. We got plenty of examples to put forward.
Right. Like Charlie Sheen being out.
What?
When they changed his character.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? Let's just start there, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that you brought up a very, very good point prior to going on air, and that was you were talking about how, like, what was the problem? And I think at the moment people are saying that the problem is the skin tone, that people don't like the fact that a black girl's playing, Little Mermaid, and I'm not sure that's what it is. I personally haven't spoken to too many people that have an issue with it.
I'm sure there's some, but I mean,
sure. But I think you brought up the idea that maybe it's not necessarily the skin tone itself. Maybe it's just tradition.
Well, not only,
people are used to seeing a certain character with a certain name and everything else. And now we're being asked to set aside any sort of like love affair we might have had with that particular character.
Right.
Now it's gonna be so. Basically,
dude, there's people with like dolls and like the covers and like I've done. We both have kids.
Yeah.
We've bought stuff that reflects a show that the kids watch.
Yeah.
Like the Monsters Inc. big dude.
Yeah.
Sully, was that his name?
I think so.
He's a big blue guy. Yeah. If all of a sudden you made him green, it would just change everything.
It would.
He's blue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I agree.
Sully is blue.
I think that I agree with you in the sense of I think it's the problem some people might have is they didn't change the name, and so they kept the name the same. Yeah. We're now expected to look at Ariel as not what we remember it as.
Mm-hmm. And why? I think more importantly is why it's done, and that's really what we're talking about. Like
I think so. Yeah.
Like if the purpose to do it was to make a statement, to take some sort of stand, then you knew damn well what you were doing.
Of course.
You knew people were going to take issue with it. You didn't do it because, in other words, like, did they do it like, say, hey, let's just open casting, and whoever the best actor is, do it? Or did you say, let's do a casting of all black women and trying to find the best black Ariel? Like, because if you did it for that purpose, then I think you kind of set this up. You pushed a button.
One can make the argument, and I think you and I, once again, who knows where this show's about to go, but what I don't like is I think that's what they did. Is I think that Black Panther did so well. Like, first of all, let's back it up a little bit to Wonder Woman, right?
Right.
Wonder Woman did so well, not necessarily because it was that great of a movie, because I watched it. It wasn't epic. It was okay.
It wasn't that great.
But I think it did so well because it was the first lead.
But it's a woman.
Female superhero.
Yeah.
And so I think people completely lost their minds and went,
I liked it better than Thor.
And they went crazy over it. And so I think then Marvel said, okay, I see your female lead character, and I raise you an African-American lead character.
Yeah.
And Black Panther did amazingly well.
It did.
And I actually like Black Panther. I thought it was a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
Having said that,
Wakanda forever, man.
I think we can't overlook the fact that part of the reason that it did so well wasn't necessarily the cinematography. It was also the idea behind, hey, we have a black culture being put out in the forefront.
Yeah.
Which I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to say it was a bad idea or a good idea. It's just it is what it is. That's what happened. But so you're not going to tell me that the decision makers at Disney didn't have in their mind, hey, if we put a black Ariel out there, we could probably kill the box office right now and make a lot of money.
And get publicity.
And get publicity.
It's about more publicity than anything.
And I think that's kind of the thing I would like for people to wake up and realize is you're being used.
We constantly get used. Hispanics get used. Spanish people get used all the time.
Yeah, you're being used. You're not even realizing that at the end of the day, your anger and your outrage puts money in their pockets.
Yeah. They're not going into the system to help provide anything different to these cultures that they use. They're simply using them as political figures for whatever agenda they have. I mean, we are talking Disney. Disney, the ones that I don't know if you still can't have tattoos visible or you still can't have piercings visible, but there was a time where you couldn't even have a beard, at all, not a goatee or anything at Disney. Disney had a lot of strict rules.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about Disney. So it's not, they're not so woke.
No.
Disney's not the most woke, but my stance. If you're
they're woke to green.
But if you're a private company, I think you should be able to have whatever parameters you want as a private company. Sure. Unless you take government money, then it changes everything. But however, Disney, I don't think is making. It's not like they're saying, "Hey, black people, we love you." They're saying there's money in black people. Well, right now, there's money in doing something for women or money or black.
Their responsibility,
right? Because Hispanics are still being ignored. Ariel sounds like a Spanish name to me, bro. Ariel. I know. Do you know any white Ariels?
No, I know a black Ariel though.
You do know a black Ariel?
Yeah.
Well, I know Spanish
Ariel.
He
pronounces it Ariel.
I bet you it's a Latino, bro.
No, he's black.
Sometimes Latinos are black, but it's Ariel is a Spanish name.
Sure.
So, what happened with us? I mean, shouldn't it have been an easier transition to go from white to brown to black? I mean, how did we just get completely missed
I think that,
in this whole equation?
I think that they need to. What a lot of people forget sometimes because they get so caught up in these issues is they forget that, like, Disney doesn't have, any responsibility to the community or to the citizenship or any particular culture.
They have a responsibility to the shareholders.
Which I am one, by the way.
Yeah,
you are. As a shareholder of Disney, by all means, make this movie. Thank you very much.
And it's going very well for you.
It is going very well for me.
Damn it.
And so, by all means, let me go ahead and buy some more stock real quick because I think it's about to go a little bit higher.
It's going to go higher
when it comes out.
You can go buy stock in Nike too, man.
Yeah.
Since you're going that route, Nike's trying to use black people too.
Yeah. And so I think though that that's who their responsibilities are towards is the shareholders.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it's a company. No. Their job is to make money. Their job is not to make social change. Their job is not to make a wokeness.
No.
And so I think a lot of people are being used and they're not aware of it.
Now that's not saying that in the process it doesn't happen, but that's not their main goal.
No, that's not their goal.
They're not a political.
They're not going to lose money to make a stance.
Correct.
They're not going to do that. Now, if making a stance just so happens to coincide with making money,
right,
sure.
Right.
And I guarantee you they'll use that as well.
Right.
If some sort of social change comes from this, they'll promote the hell out of that.
Oh yeah.
To make more money.
Yes.
Like, let's just keep it.
And if it doesn't, they'll apologize to their shareholders and correct it.
Exactly.
They won't overcorrect it.
No.
They'll correct it.
No, because they want to keep making money.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of where we're at though. Is people don't realize that this overcorrected isn't always paved with the best intentions.
No, and sometimes, and I've said before, I don't care why someone donates money to the Now Matters More Foundation, just donate. So whatever the reasons are their reasons. As long as it helps, it's helpful. But at the same time, when it has everyone just arguing about this, let's not get this twisted. There's been characters on TV shows and movies replaced all the time.
Yeah.
And anytime there's a new character, like, I take it back to Three's Company. I know that's dated. But when Suzanne Summers left Three's Company, that was a big hit. I mean, it was like, how can you replace one blonde with another blonde? We fell in love with that blonde. Right? They didn't replace her with anything different other than a blonde. And typically in television, that's the way it works. If you lose a blonde, you replace a blonde. If you lose a dark-haired person, you replace a dark-haired person. If you lose a black person, you replace a black person. You brought up Terrence Howard being replaced as what in Avengers?
War Machine.
Yeah, so you had this
black
officer
Don Cheadle did it.
Got replaced with John Cheadle, another black officer. That's typically the way Hollywood works.
Yeah.
If it replaces somebody, they look pretty similar to the one that they replaced.
But in this case, it's completely different.
So when you go so dramatic, maybe some of the people that are having taken issue with it, it's not that they're racist. It's just that you get used to a certain way that you appreciate a show, and then you take issue if they change it. Now, for instance, if The Walking Dead, let's take a show that was huge, right?
Okay.
Still is kind of huge, but it was bigger,
right?
Like last year, even 2 years ago, right?
I'm not caught up.
Or let's do Game of Thrones then. Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Let's take you take the Mother of Dragons.
Okay.
In Game of Thrones, if the last season you would have changed her to a black woman and still called her the same name,
I think a lot of people would have been pissed off.
what would have happened? Now, would that have been race, or would it have been, wait a minute, we fell in love with the Mother of Dragons the way we envision her?
Well, I think that's part of my issue, and one of the reasons why I wanted to have the show was I don't like the fact that we're in a culture these days where it's like, if you don't agree with me, you're racist.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a different point of view from me, it's not that you just have a different perspective. No, it's you're racist.
Right.
And I don't like that.
Right.
Because in the same sense, right? Like, I know it's a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing because I've seen them posted on Facebook. Right. But right now, if they were come out with Black Panther 2 and Ryan Gosling was the main character, I think people would have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I think the black community, because they call it whitewashing. There's a lot of stuff that's out there. And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I think there's some definitely perspective that wasn't given in history books and things of that nature that have been whitewashed for sure.
Like a lot of music back in the 50s
every country
and
does
60s. That. You took a black guy that did the song, and then they whitewashed it. Then you had the Isley Brothers or whatever, the Everly Brothers come out with it and kind of like very vanilla.
Well, like every country does that.
Right.
Every country, if you look at every country's history books, it's not been whitewashed. It's just been washed for whatever that culture is.
And by the way, and I think you hit it earlier, it's not whitewashed because it had for racial reasons. It was whitewashed for financial reasons.
Sure.
In other words, people aren't going to buy it if it's from that person, but they will buy, the Everly Brothers.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Back then, they will buy Elvis Presley, but not necessarily the guy. Yeah,
Chuck Berry.
Chuck Berry.
Yeah, they're not going to buy Chuck Berry.
Chuck Berry's fantastic.
Yeah.
But let's be honest here. Elvis sold a hell of a lot more records. Yeah. So if you could take Elvis and sing a Chuck Berry song, which one's going to sell more?
Well, and I think that's what part of the issue is. Common sense gets thrown out, right? Like, the recently part of the overcorrect in this, right? Because it's not just a racial thing; it's a sex thing.
It's a green thing.
And so, like the Dalai Lama, something that pertains to this show heavily. He was recently interviewed. Yeah. And he's a lot of hot water at the moment because apparently during his interview he was asked if the predecessor to him, in other words, the next Dalai Lama, could be a woman. And he said yes. He said, yeah, sure, it could be a woman. He said, but she'd have to be attractive.
Whoa.
And that pissed everybody off.
Whoa, he really said that?
Yeah, he said she would have to be attractive because nobody wants to listen to an ugly person. But you know what, though? Those weren't his words.
That's going to take me a moment.
Those weren't his words. It was roughly translated, but the point he was making was attractiveness helps get your point across. And that's been proven.
That's a fact.
That's been proven through science. The more symmetrical your face is, the more physically attractive you are. You're instantly thought to be more honest, more sincere, more trusting, all these other things. That's just science, guys. But apparently he took so much hell over that. He had to come out and apologize. Look, I'm sorry if you're offended. That's not what I was doing.
That's strong.
But the point is,
so even the Dalai Lama can offend.
All he did was point out what has been scientifically proven, and he took so much hell for that. And that's where we're at right now, is we've overcorrected to the point where people are they're not even rational anymore. Right. There's a pothole, instead of just moving around it, they're swerving completely off the road, going Dukes of Hazzard over mountains. And it's like, hold up, just slow your roll for a minute. And so like the Ariel thing, I personally, I want to put it out there for I don't care. There's so many more important things in my life to worry about than if Ariel's white, black, Spanish, blue, green, yellow. I don't really care. Right. However, just because I hear somebody tell me that they're upset that character is no longer white, I'm not going to automatically jump to their racist point.
Right.
I'm not going to do that because, like you said, if I just walked in here tomorrow as like a 5'4" Puerto Rican kid and said, "Oh, I'm Trinity," I'm pretty sure you'd be like, "No, you're not." Like, what? What do you mean? So if Ariel, if Ariel was brought to us and sold to us for over a decade, over 2 decades,
right,
as just a certain image, you can't then come out and say, oh, well, no, it's going to be this now, and expect everybody to be totally cool with it. Having said that, I think as we move forward and look back on this, it's going to be a non-issue. I think they'll adapt to it. It'll be fine.
Right.
The little things will sell off the shelves. Every little girl's going to want it.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
But
these things are typically called jumping the shark in Hollywood. Sure. So when you do a dramatic change to a character or to your show, it's called jumping the shark. You're you're doing that old remember the Happy Days. Well, you don't remember, but Happy Days when the Henry Winkler character, the Fonz, jumped the shark. It's almost like you do something so dramatic just to get ratings because you're losing ratings.
Right.
So anytime a show does a dramatic change like that, you take the risk. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of press immediately, like at the moment, but it's not sustainable. Right. It's not sustainable coverage. So you really don't. It doesn't do as well as you think.
Sure.
But that happens with any show. Look, Ashton Kutcher is a great actor or a great draw in Hollywood, right? He makes people go to the theater, he's an A-lister. However, he still didn't do what Charlie Sheen did.
No.
So that show didn't do as well long term. Charlie Sheen did it for many, many, many years. Yeah. And that's a dumbass show. I mean, it really is, man.
I've never seen it. So.
That show, man, God, that one character, that other character, not the Charlie Sheen character, but his brother or whatever. He talks about masturbation so much it's uncomfortable. It's like a guy that you look at. You ever meet like those regular like traveling comedian kind of guys or those gamer type of guys that when you meet him you're like, I don't want to shake his hand. Yeah. I don't want to shake this guy's hand. He looks like he just stays in his room masturbating all day long. That's all that guy talks about. And I don't mean to take your show that way, but what I'm saying is the changes when you make changes like this. People struggle with it because it's not what they're accustomed to, and therefore you have asked them to adjust their interest in your show, and some of them just don't go with you.
Yeah, and I don't think that inherently makes them racist. I don't.
No. It's about trying to make it's all about money.
Yeah,
this is all about money.
Well, from the Disney's perspective, it's about money.
From every business perspective,
from the watcher, if you will, the person who's going to it. I think it's about
familiarity.
Well, not only that, but I think it's a deeper issue right now.
Yeah.
And this is where we're about to get political. So if you don't like
so.
politics, oh well. I think that part of the reason why is because we have overcorrected in many people's eyes.
Right.
When the change is made from the white Ariel to the black Ariel, I think that not only do some people have an issue with messing with what their tradition was,
right.
but also it can come off to some people as disingenuous. It can come off as in, I know what you're doing. You're placating now to these individuals, which I don't think you should do, and it gets me upset because why? And I think that's where the political stuff comes into play, where people do feel like it's overcorrected. People do feel slighted, both white, black, Spanish. Everybody feels slighted for their own reasons at the moment, and I think that creates a certain amount of angst to where you're already kind of hypersensitive to certain things.
Aren't you also admitting that you were racist to begin with? Aren't you kind of like
I think you could
accidentally saying that?
I think you could look at it that way.
Because wouldn't the character just be a different? Why not just create a black character that's a mermaid?
Why. I don't know
why not just create a black princess?
Yeah.
Like why not just create a black doll, but you don't have to call her Barbie. Barbie's Barbie, but you have another one. Yeah. What's wrong with that? Like if that's really the issue, but why do you have to take the name? And again, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's my point, though.
You know what I'm saying?
But that's my point. That's why people are getting upset, is because it feels very much like you're saying sorry for stuff that you shouldn't be sorry for.
Right.
It's like you're admitting, race was a problem when Ariel came out.
Right.
And it just so happened. I mean, the guy who wrote Ariel was a Dutch guy. I mean, back.
Yeah, he's not being racist. No. And I'm sure there's a Maria somewhere swimming out in the sea. Let's find Maria. Don't make Maria Ariel. It's almost like when your dog dies and you buy another dog and you name it the same exact name.
Yeah.
The dog's dead, bro.
Yeah, give it up.
You know what I mean?
It's okay.
You can't have three Skippies. Skippy 1, Skippy 2, Skippy 3, Skippy 4. Yeah. I mean, Skippy died.
Exactly.
So if you want to kill Ariel. Just have a different name.
Well, I think so, and I'll speak for myself.
I don't think that would have changed the show too bad. I think that would have been a good movie. Then it would have been great.
They could have called it The Next Mermaid.
Yeah.
Instead of The Little Mermaid. The Next Mermaid. Just do a whole new
another
franchise.
mermaid.
Yeah. But I mean, I get it, though. Like, I understand some of the frustration, because I think that, like, okay, perfect example. This is where I mean by overcorrected. Now we're going to continue on with the political realm, I guess. But recently I read an article, and if I haven't read it and like this morning. So if anything's changed,
Right.
don't get mad at me.
Right.
The original article that I read showed that there was a Starbucks that I guess one patron saw a bunch of. It was like
police officers. 7.
Was it 7? It was a bunch of officers who, prior to going to their shift, stopped into Starbucks to grab a coffee and hang out for a minute before they started their shift. Somebody in there said that they felt uncomfortable or unsafe, and so the barista asked the cops to leave
Or get out of the line of sight.
Change their line of sight.
Which is,
and so to me, that's just ridiculous. Because I guarantee you, any of those people, the first person they would call if somebody's robbing them or whatever is 911.
yeah.
The fact that you feel unsafe around a cop, to me, says more about you than it does about the cop, I guess. But regardless, to me, that's just like, that's where we're at now. And people are overcorrecting. And so there was never a time 10 years ago that they would have done that. You know, first of all, the person wouldn't have felt justified to come up and say, hey, those officers are making me unsafe. And the barista would have been like, get over it. But now, and we're in a climate now where everybody feels the need to be so politically correct,
Right.
and so catering to the fringe.
Right.
Because I don't think the normal, average, everyday person feels that way, but the fringe does, and they get all the publicity right now. And so we overcorrect for the not for the masses,
Right.
but for the outliers.
And there's more explanations about why someone would be upset with a police instead of just focusing on that's a ridiculous thing to say and to respond to. Because let's flip this. If that was 7 Mexicans, Latinos like me, all there, and then we got told, hey, you're making this white couple feel uncomfortable and unsafe, you guys have to leave or get out of their line of sight, there would be an uproar.
Right.
I mean, it would be blasted. No one would buy Starbucks anymore.
Or what if there was?
You know what I mean?
I'm gonna take it even one step further.
So why is it okay?
What if you and I are sitting in a Starbucks and a bunch of butch lesbians are sitting there, and we say they're making me feel uncomfortable? Something tells me that it wouldn't go over as well.
They would tell you to leave.
Exactly.
To get the F out of here. Then.
But that's my point. So it's like we're overcorrecting in certain avenues.
And by the way, it's not Starbucks that did this.
No,
it's that particular barista and that particular store. But you know what? Starbucks loves to take responsibility for all their stores because that's business.
Yeah.
So that's at least good business to take responsibility and respond to it. But you set the tone, Starbucks. You've set this tone.
Yeah. And I think and so that climate, I think, that we have
that's ridiculous
in today's world has created so much vitriol from all sides,
right.
And it's causing everybody to lose like reasonability.
Yeah, and some of them were veterans, and it was 4th of July. Timing was way off.
Of course.
So you just add that to it.
Of course.
You just add that to it, and it's like, man, you really made a mistake.
And so I think that but
they're not catching enough hell on the left side. The left side is okay with it.
Well, and that's the problem.
They're saying it was wrong, but it's understandable because. That's what they're saying. Yes, it's wrong, but because this.
But even when they say it's understandable because, I'm going to argue with that as well. Like, I've looked at different statistics, and the idea that the police are out there overwhelmingly creating genocide on black folks is just not true.
No.
Does it happen? Yes. But white people also get killed by police officers.
A lot of cops have killed all kinds of people.
Exactly, white and black. And so I think that it's overcorrected.
By the way, I do have something to say. Side note, this trip to California, now, I used to live in L.A. I've told you, cops used to be harassing me when I lived in L.A. It was horrible. You get pulled over for a ticket, and they'd pull us all out of the car because they thought we were gangbangers, put us on the side of the road, on our knees, and it was horrible.
Now they give you a plate of cookies?
It was before the Rodney King riots. It was before. Let me tell you something. Now, as an older guy, and maybe it's my wife, I walk around with this blonde woman. And this blonde woman gets everything for free. I tell you, it's weird. But yes, sir, no, sir. They were so nice. The police officers in California were so nice
because they're afraid to get sued.
I mean, even right there in Santa Monica and Venice, when I walked by and said, and how you doing? Even here, you say how you doing. A lot of times they'll just look at you like, I'm on, because they're on watch. Right. They're like, they're working. They're not there to be Mr. Friendly typically. You know what I mean? These guys were like, oh, good. How you doing? You having a good time? It's like, what are you, like a tourist? You work for the tourist bureau?
But you weren't afraid because you're brown. You didn't think they were going to shoot you?
Not at all, man. I felt safer. And as a matter of fact, I felt more unsafe when I don't see them around. I like to see police around, because that tells me if something goes off. Like, look what happened just in Disneyland. How long did it take anybody to approach?
Oh, you talking about that fight that happened?
That family that started beating each other's
whole family.
Where's the uproar on that?
Dude, that was crazy.
Two men smack women around.
Yeah, dude, they went nuts. That was a crazy thing.
And people instead are videotaping. instead of doing anything about it. And where was the security? Doesn't Disney have
they showed up eventually, but they didn't think they didn't look like they were going to do anything.
After 2 women got beat up and it lasted like 2-3 minutes.
The guys who apprehended him were other patrons. Right. They weren't even the security.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the point is, you want police around.
Yeah,
that wouldn't have lasted as long. Those women wouldn't have got beat if there were more cops.
Well, I feel the need to preface this, though, just in case anybody's watching this, because I have a lot of friends, of multiple different cultures that we typically don't have these types of conversations. I have a few that I do, but I'm not saying that all cops are good. I know personally, back when I used to ride sport bikes, there's some cops out there that probably shouldn't have a badge, man. Like, absolutely.
No.
But I think
there's a lot of waitresses that shouldn't be serving food either.
But I think that's the minority. I think the overall vast majority of police officers are fine. Yeah. They're good at their job. They're doing it for the right reasons, and they're here to help. Yeah. But that's the problem we're in today. We're so into overcorrecting on things that inadvertently, I think people are drawing lines in the sand, and that's never a good idea to draw lines in the sand, because then you feel the need to back up why you drew that line. You're less likely to say, "Oh, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have drawn that line." No, the idea of drawing a line, now you feel compelled to defend it.
Well, you can't say, "Hey, don't profile me, but I'm going to profile you." That's stupid. You can't say, "Hey, I don't like that police profile Latinos or black people and think we're all problems and therefore I'm in danger of my life," and yet you're profiling police and saying all cops are a certain way.
Yeah,
you just can't do that.
Exactly.
That's just a dumb statement.
But you're not allowed to say that these days, and that's what I don't like.
I just did.
Sure. I mean, you and I don't really seem to care. We do what we want, but
it's because I teach my kids. Look, yes, it was like this, but this is what Daddy did to get some of these arrests and problems that I had. Right. I did this and this and this and this. So Dana taught me that the way I reacted or responded to a police officer when he pulled us over and stuff like that was very aggressive. Dana taught me that. I didn't know I was being aggressive. I thought I was within my rights, but you also have a responsibility of just being human, and I was being a jerk off.
Sure.
So even though I didn't do anything illegal, I was being very aggressive to the police officer, and therefore it never ended up very well.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen numerous different videos of police brutality on TV. And
I wish mine were on video. I'd be rich right now.
Yeah, I've seen some of those, and oftentimes, not every time, of course, but there's been quite a few that I've seen that I feel that if the person being pulled over handled it differently, they might be alive today. Yeah. Not to say that the cop didn't overstep their boundaries and probably jump the gun. Not to use, technically, I guess it is pun intended.
He just reminded me of a situation. Somebody that may be watching this right now was getting arrested in front of us, getting pulled out. And these cops had his arms way behind his head, like had him in this real uncomfortable position. "You can't come in this house. You don't have a warrant." And the guy said, "This ain't L.A. law."
Yeah, but
we were so upset. But if you look at it, it's like we were a bunch of teenagers in a house party drinking and doing drugs, man.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. We were wrong.
Of course.
So we had rights.
I saw there was a.
Oh, that's hilarious.
There was a video that I watched, and I don't remember the names of them all, but there was a girl that got pulled over, and she ended up going to jail and ended up, dying. Yeah. Some people say she killed herself. Some people say she wasn't. I don't know. But what I'm going to address is the fact that when she got pulled over, instead of just being like, "Okay, I'm sorry, I'm pulled over, whatever," and even if he was completely wrong, fight it later in court. No, instead, she caught an attitude, started yelling, which at that point then became into a pissing contest.
Yeah.
And, of course, he's going to feel like he can piss further because he's got a badge.
Yeah.
And so he's going to pull her out of the car, and it progressed to a level it didn't need to go to. Now, my wife and I talked about this, and she was very upset, and she said that he completely overstepped his boundaries and got really mad at me almost when I said, "Hold up, she didn't really help herself out at all." And then, because she was still operating under the premise that only one thing can be true. Mm-hmm. I was like, no. They both can be true. He completely overstepped his boundaries and should not have a badge, but she also didn't help herself out at all. Like, my rule of thumb, when a police officer pulls me over, people would call it white privilege. That when I get pulled over, I'm not afraid of getting shot. I don't call it white privilege personally. I say I just use common sense. If a cop pulls me over, my first thought isn't to argue. My first thought is, "Yes, sir. No, sir." Like, I just...
Well, because you are in danger of... I mean, if they pull you over, they're probably calling for backup very quickly.
Yeah.
Because you look like...
Well, I'm in a big truck. I'm in a big blacked out truck. Yeah. I've got tinted windows they can't see into. I've got full tats. I do look like I would be trouble, potentially.
Put it this way. If I was out in the woods hiking... And I'm with my family, and we're hiking like we do out in
You got
Carolina.
a pretty mouth on you, boy.
And I see you just sitting there whittling.
All right, you almost got me on that one. You almost spilled the drink.
I'd probably tell my kids, hang close and just keep walking.
Right.
I mean, I just would.
Yeah.
But what's wrong with that? Am I profiling you for being this? Yes, profiling can save your friggin'
That's
life.
how we've remained alive as a species.
You know, that's like, that car's probably gonna not stop. So let me profile the car and not walk across the street right now.
But so my point though is the reason why I feel safe when I get stopped isn't because I'm sure a little bit has to do with my size and whatnot. If push comes to shove, I think I could defend myself.
He's got a gun.
But my point is, they have guns.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they can potentially legally shoot you.
Yeah. And disrupt your life.
Yeah. And so,
one way or another.
as far as I'm concerned, when you've got the gun, you make the rules.
That's it.
Like if I walk out of the studio right now, and we come around the corner, and there's like 4 guys there, and they all pull out AR-15s and tell me to get on the ground, I'm going to get on the ground.
Yeah.
I'm not going to like, well, you don't have a right to, no, you got the gun, you can shoot me. I'm going to, now if I see an opening, who knows? But immediately, you make the rules, dude.
Right, and here's the kicker. We're not in the times where currently today we have an overwhelming number of people getting arrested and doing life sentences for crimes they didn't commit. The science is blown that out of the water with DNA and all that stuff. So the best thing to do is, I'll deal with it in court.
Yeah.
We're in a time where attorneys can handle so much stuff. Shut up, comply, let the attorney handle it. You shut up.
Yeah.
You stop talking.
I've had stuff
don't
happen.
Don't be a jerk off. Don't use your cell phone to record. You just comply.
Don't provoke them.
You comply.
Don't provoke.
You have attorneys to handle the rest. And even and don't say, well, I can't afford an attorney. Look, public defenders will still save your ass.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
But like,
the same government that's attacking you actually provides you an attorney. By the way,
that's the idea that I've never understood. Right? You know, where I saw it a lot actually. Well, it sounds it's a trivial example, but I think we can all relate to it. You ever been in a crosswalk and the person just walks out in front of you?
All the time.
And because in their mind, well, I've got the right of way.
Yeah, all the time.
Well, how important would that right of way be if I hit you and paralyze you for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You had the right of way, by all means. But now you're paralyzed for the rest of your life. Is it really worth the fight?
Yeah, but you can't get out of your car and say, look at your dumb ass now.
Yeah,
you can't
of course
do that.
not.
You can't
but
do
my
that.
point being, though, is when a cop pulls you over, they might very well be wrong.
Yeah.
But they can kill you. So, okay, thank you. I'll appreciate the ticket.
Look both ways.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
And then go fight it in court.
That's right.
I've had that actually happen. I've had cops be complete dicks to me.
Yeah.
And I've just, okay, whatever. I'll
go beat it.
And then I fought the ticket and I won.
Right.
You know, and so, and to me, that's not white privilege. That's just common sense.
And not that the show's about white, it's about overcorrecting people. So I think what you're saying is don't try to correct the misdeeds or the misfortunes of other people by you going outside of yourself. You're losing your own peace and your sanity and your happiness and your freedom by taking on someone else's anger and frustration.
Yeah.
I mean, we all get frustrated about misdeeds out there.
Of course.
But that's not you. Let's not get it twisted. That doesn't mean that's happening to you.
Yes.
I hate when I see somebody that's taking on like all the world's problems on their shoulders. And you do realize that your shoulders are very tiny.
Yeah.
You can't handle these words. Handle your business.
Well, it leads me to probably one of my most favorite phrases, which I thought was actually really hilarious.
That's they business?
No, my wife. My wife actually. My wife said it to one of her friends the other day.
What?
And gave me total credit for it, by the way, which is awesome.
Nice. That's nice.
But she was talking to one of her friends, and her friend was talking about, some situations that were taking place.
Yeah.
And she repeated the phrase that I've said to her, and I've said to many, many people in groups and everything else, and that is, you could be right or you could be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the instance of the girl being pulled over by the cop who's no longer alive, you were right. He was completely wrong. But are you happy? Because you're dead right now.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, you can be right or you can be happy. I want happiness.
Man.
And so sometimes I'll see something that I don't feel is right.
Right.
And I will fight it the best way I can, but I'm not going to allow that to interrupt my peace. Because at the end of the day, I've still got to wake up and live my life tomorrow. I still have relationships that I got to maintain. I still have responsibilities. And I'm going to make sure that that I do those to the best of my ability and maintain my peace.
Right.
And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And I see so many people allowing outside things to interrupt their peace
so much
that they're not even they're swerving around
Yeah.
a pothole as opposed to just gently going around it.
Yeah, they're taking that. Look, I want women to be advanced as high as possible. I want women to be paid just as much as men. However, that doesn't mean I don't want men to have jobs. That's
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost that's the way that people hear it.
Yeah.
You know, they hear it like, okay, so if what you're really saying, I mean, what they're really asking for is, you know, this side needs to have all the occupations or all the jobs. Look, equality is equality. Equality means fight for it, right?
Yeah.
Do it. So I want my daughters, I have 2 daughters, I want them to be able to be competitive. I don't want them, and I don't mind them getting the job just because they're women. I mean, take whatever advantage you can get. However, you do know that you still have to earn it. You still have to be there. Now, here's the issue. The reason I brought that up is because when we're talking about like equal pay for like the sports figures, which I think would be really cool for the World Cup and stuff, but I can definitely see somebody like a little numbers person go, okay, so this one brings in, you know, $6 million every time it's aired. This one brings in $2 million. Well, we're paying you equal percentage to what gets brought in. So if you want equal money, then we need the draw.
Actually,
the people just don't go. Look, the World Cup is huge. We all love it, right? But you do know that the female World Cup brings a less draw than male World Cup. I love the female World Cup, but you know not as many people watch the female World Cup as the male World Cup. It's just the way it is. So it's not that you don't want it equal. It doesn't bring in the same amount of money. And nobody brings up that without being attacked.
Actually, you know what? Oddly enough, I watched PTI yesterday. It's a show I watch all the time, and they actually addressed the subject.
They need to.
And what they said was that they agree that the governing body should pay them equally.
Agreed.
For the services that they provide. But the contracts should not pay them equally because the draw is different. And so they said it perfectly. Good. So yes, I agree that the United Soccer Federation, whatever it's called these days, that they're all a part of.
Yeah.
They should be paid the same,
right?
Because it's the same governing body. You're asking the same from them,
right?
Now, the people who have the contracts with TV, things of that nature, whoever brings in the most
That's
money,
different.
You should get a different share.
That's different
because it's just like the WNBA and the NBA.
Absolutely.
If you look at the NBA, their contracts are like 4 years, $140 million.
Well, can you imagine a WNBA player getting $140 million or something like that?
It's just not going to happen.
From where?
And they're not, and it's not because they're not equal,
right?
But it's because they're not
the
equal.
Draw.
Well, they're not equal in the draw.
In the draw. They're not equal in the draw.
More people are lined up to watch the NBA than they are the WNBA.
So what does that say? What does that say about all you guys that are like, oh, why aren't you buying it? You're not going.
Yeah.
You're not going to female soccer matches. You're not going to the female basketball matches. Yeah. You don't even promote female football. We knew one. One of them was worked on on the Couch Live television show. She was a professional football athlete, but she didn't make enough to be a professional football athlete because you guys don't go.
Yeah.
Well, I don't either. I'm not saying I do.
Yeah, well, and that's part of my problem with the overcorrecting. Is we've overcorrected so much, and we're continuing to do so, that we're losing sight of reasonability. Right. Like, be reasonable. Understand the facts. But nobody wants to fact find anymore. They just want to hear something sensationalist, and then they run with it.
Everybody wants to be John Lennon. They really do.
I don't get that reference, by the way.
Well, I mean, just everybody wants to.
Because not only am I not old enough, but I don't like the Beatles.
I'm not. But it was such a look. The '60s and '70s were such a trying time in our nation. There was such a dramatic time in our nation. Our life right now is so cushy compared that we try to find those John Lennon moments, is what I'm saying. Those moments where you can really just do a sit-in. You can really take a stand. You can really do some sort of dramatic... Look, they tried to do Woodstock again. It didn't work. It became volatile and aggressive.
Right.
There was only one Woodstock. There was only one 60s. It happened then because what those kids were going through was amazingly horrible. But then they grew up to be horrible parents, and that damn generation has not done so well because they were less structured in the way they did everything. And then my generation came up and me. Thank you for making us very selfish and entitled.
Yeah, man.
And then we were worse parents, and now look at the generation after us. The millennials are even more entitled than we were.
But apparently, the Generation Z is the new ones coming.
They're awesome,
and they seem to have their stuff together.
They're smart.
I've got one in my house, and
me too.
She definitely seems.
They're woke.
Yeah,
they're woke,
like real woke.
Yeah, they're real. They're able to see. No, your wokeness is brokenness. This is wokeness.
Yeah,
you're broken. You're broken, and you're bleeding, and you're acting like you're well.
Well, the idea that that your wokeness has to infringe on somebody else's ability to function is not wokeness.
Yeah.
It's just another form of control. It's another form of bullying, essentially.
You can't be heard if you're attacking and blaming.
Yeah. You lose the moral.
Nobody listens to you.
Yeah, of course.
Have you ever listened to somebody? Have you ever said you're right when someone's actually blaming you and attacking you and being mean to you and bullying? Not. You see, the problem is the ones that were getting bullied are being bullies.
Yeah.
Because that's what you were taught. You come from being bullied. Yes, you were hurt when you were young. Yes, you were attacked in school. Yes, you had no friends, or you had limited friends, and people didn't accept you, and they said a lot of mean things, and television made jokes about you, and all the movies made fun of you and used you as figures. But your response to that has now been, you're the bully. You've become the bully, and you don't even see it. You're so blind. You're not woke. You're blind. You don't even see that you are today's bully.
Well, some of them feel just vindicated in that. I've actually heard that where a lot of people saying that the white, straight, Christian, conservative male is being attacked. And a lot of them say, well, good, because, you attacked for so long, so now you're complaining because you're on the other end of it. What makes you any better? Like, you're doing the exact same thing. And I hate to break it to you, but that person you're probably attacking had nothing to do with some of the stuff that's bothering you.
This country was not built by rich white men like Kesha is talking about, by the way, in her new song. This country was built by all of us.
Yeah.
The white of us, the black of us, the brown of us, the female in us, all of us have built this country. We are all government. We are all. Have you ever been to a government office? Is it filled with rich white men? No. Are all the votes from rich white men? No. We are a system of people. If you don't like the government, blame yourself. We are government. If you don't like the way government is run, blame yourself, because we are within those government offices. We as a unit and as a family run this. So pointing fingers is a bad idea. I want to go back to the days when our old-time parents used to say, well, if you point a finger one way, you have three pointing right back at you. That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact, and that's a truth. We have stopped listening to the old wise men, because what we're saying is all old people suck. Well, anyway, take it from there.
The other thing, before I get to the tips, the other thing that I guess just to piggyback off of that is a lot of people get so kind of caught up in blaming one side that they forget that side also helped them. Like, for instance, in the Civil War, white people fought in the Civil War to help free slaves. Yeah. It wasn't all white people just holding slaves. White people fought to free them too. There was two sides of that equation, the North versus the South. It wasn't just all black people in the Northern Army, the Yankees. There's a lot of white people in there fighting because they thought it was an injustice, and they were fighting to free the slaves. Women's rights. There was a point not too long ago back in the suffrage movement where women didn't have the right to vote. Well, who were they protesting to? It was men who were deciding legislation at that time. So some of the men decided to give them the right to vote because they earned it. So, yes, some of the men said no, but a lot of the men said yes, enough to where it passed. So you can't just look at one person as the enemy and always has been, always will be, because without them helping you, you're not going to get anywhere.
And that is evolution. and by the way, I've never turned the camera on for the YouTube thing. How are you doing? You didn't see me all show. Anyway, evolution is that way, right? Evolution is a process. It's not an event. You're part of this evolutionary process. Now, we don't know where it's going to go. Don't pretend like you know where it's going to go, and I'm not going to pretend like I know where it's going to go. You might be on the right side of history, but you also very well may be on the wrong side of history. We do not know.
No, we don't.
But the point is that we're part of the evolutionary process, as always.
Yep. What a great segue. Now we get to the 3 tips. So, I'll give you some action tips to kind of to walk away from with the show, just to get started, I guess, the first tip I got here walking away is, yes, understand that there are legitimate problems in today's society that require, fixing, if you will. The world is not perfect. There are legitimate things that require solutions. Yes, we have to understand that. Second part we also have to understand, as he just pointed out, it's an evolution. It's not an immediate knee-jerk kind of thing. That's not how it gets solved. It's got to take time. As the generations grow, as more things become prevalent, there's a process that it has to go through. So trust that process. Allow that evolution to happen. Stop trying to fix it now, because it's never going to happen. And then the third one kind of coincides with the first two, and that is just stop. Stop silliness. Stop creating these lines. Stop creating this division. Stop blaming others and everything else. You can only control your behavior and how you respond. And to be honest with you, as Gandhi once said, be the change that you want to see. That's how you implement change. You don't implement change by getting on a soapbox, blaming everybody, and putting down everybody, and bullying everybody. You change it by being that. and being so good at that it impacts those around you and motivates them to do the same. That's how you affect change. I think that's all we got.
Gandhi would have never said you have to be good looking.
You never know.
To be the change.
You never know. Anyways, that's all I got. So now that you know better, do better. Peace. Are you still here? What are you doing? I told you, go do better.